Hey, what's going on, guys? Battle Nation Zimper here, back today with another video. And today, guys, we're back in the sandbox build. We can do whatever we want. We can even edit this beautiful landscape over here, each individual piece of it. But today, we are going to be, of course, talking about unit status effects. And this, of course, comes and immediately follows up the video we made on unit stats earlier on. And of course, what each individual one means, like bravery, dodge, armor, all that good stuff. If you're interested in that video, it will be linked below. But the feedback on that video was absolutely amazing. I appreciate everybody who liked, commented on it, or even just watched it. Appreciate everybody who did that and requested for this video right here. So today we're going to be talking about unit status effects. And the only thing I really want to say before we get into today's video is thank you everybody who's been joining the server recently. We've had a bunch of feedback on the server. And really the only thing I can say on the server side is we have had multiple people message us on the server shortly after joining. They go to kill the AC and they're somehow able to get a Dexter fragment. It's happening at much higher than rational rates. So we don't know really what's going on there, but if you would like to get a Imperial Blessing, as it's being coined in the community, by all means, you're more than welcome to join. There is no trial, there's no passport. If you just want to become an Imperial, you're more than welcome to join down in the Discord down below. But with all that being said, let's jump right into today's video, starting, of course, with status effects. So, what do status effects and what do they mean? So, of course, let's just go ahead and read right over the overview as it reads. During battle, units may become afflicted by status effects, which impair their ability to fight and or survive effectively. Some status effects can even cause damage over time, shortened to DOT. And if you ever hear somebody in the community say DOT, that's exactly what they're referring to. They're referring to damage over time as implied by status effects. So just wanted to imply that that's absolutely correct. Continuing on, we read. The 1.3 patch included the first status effects. Many more were introduced in 1.5 patch. Note that every other status effect can stack with one another. And that's pretty insane because if you're a Pokemon player like me, you know in pretty much every Pokemon game, it's a universal fact. I'm sure there's some exception, but more or less it's a universal fact that a Pokemon can only get infected with one status effect, and that's it. Not in Battle Nations. It's basically like Minecraft, more realistically. You can be affected with every single freaking status effect in the game. You can be on fire. You can be flamed. You can be poisoned. And again, any status effect you can think of, you can have it. You can be inflicted with it. And it can be a hassle sometimes. So, of course, we're going to jump right into that today. Starting off with, let's just go ahead and go with the most reasonable one. Starting off with suppression. Now, a lot of people know this. They've seen it. It happens to all of us because most attacks have a chance of causing suppression. And it's by far the most common status effect in the game. In fact, it was the very first status effect in the game. So, what does it do? Let's go ahead and read its results. As it reads, I'll go ahead and read it real quick right here. Suppression is the first status effect that was implemented in the battle system. Most attacks have a chance to cause suppression, which reduce the affected unit's accuracy. Reduced accuracy leads to more misses, or fewer hits landing. Which attacks hit multiple times? Some attacks have a higher chance to cause suppression than others. A unit's bravery stat helps prevent suppression. And yeah, that's pretty much all suppression does. That's literally it. All it does is cause a higher chance for misses, which if you're doing something like the tank killer, that can come in huge. And just to give an example of this, in my most recent Battle Nations episode as of this recording, episode 70 of Let's Play Battle Nations, I took on the AC and unfortunately just had a really bad time and lost. But it was super close, and as one of the commenters pointed out, I'll go ahead and throw him up on screen, he pointed out that had I maybe attacked with a different AC, I could have theoretically maybe made it because I had just attacked with the AC that was hit, because I was going off the implication you attack with the lowest AC tank killer possible to of course attack AC, and I attacked with that tank killer to of course hit AC with him, and since he was suppressed, he missed 2 of his attacks. Howbeit, of course, he gets to the end of the match. I'm about to retreat, and he's just low 2 tank killer attacks. So of course, I could have attacked with a completely regular tank killer without suppression, and he by all means still could have missed. But it makes you wonder. That's just a real world example. I never would have found that. That's only something a viewer found watching back over my footage because, of course, I recorded for the Let's Play series. But that's a perfect example of how suppression, which may seem minor at the time, truly can make the difference. So, continuing right along, we have immobilization, also more specifically, stun. Let's go ahead and read it. Some attacks can cause the stun effect. For a set number of rounds, during this time, the affected unit cannot attack during this turn. In addition, the affected unit's cooldown on attack is effectively frozen and do not have cooldown. Also, units that are stunned have their dodge greatly reduced. Certain units have become stunned will not benefit from their armor or damage reduction offered by armor. While stunned, damage inflicted units are applied directly to the HP, bypassing armor. These units only include riot troopers and armadillos as of 2.0 patch. As of 4.9 patch, the bypass now applies to all units with armor. Some units immune to stun effects caused by certain attacks. This is because most stun attacks only affect a certain enemy type. Pyros, firework trucks, and the ninja's smoke bomb can stun any kind of unit except structures. Grenaders flashbang, riot troopers shield bash, and peacekeeper and riot trucks tear gas only affect infiltrators and critters. Ninja's electric strike, peacekeeper, and riot trucks EMP. Grenadiers only affect vehicles. Defensive structures are immune to all stun effects. So that was a lot to break down, but let's go ahead and focus on the main bits. So, as it said, some attacks can cause stun at the beginning there. During, of course, which all units have a great reduction to their dodge, which makes sense. They're, stunned, right? And their offense effectively frozen, with, their cooldown affected, which, makes perfect sense. I mean, you would imagine, all of that to, make sense, on their attacks too. So, bigger than that, besides, attacks, let's say, you just attacked and the cooldown on your attack is, no longer going down, and your units can't dodge attacks, more or less, their dodge is greatly reduced. Fair enough. The second, though, right there is pretty big. Armor, so take something like a tank, whether it be a mini tank all the way up to a super tank, and of course, mega tanks, the ones we get back into the game. All of those will have their armor greatly reduced, if not just outright ignored. So, of course, armor normally provides protection. Upright, it normally, of course, drains from the armor. Then it goes into the health of the unit. That's how armor works in Battle Nations. A little bit more detailed in the previous video. But in short, it does protect the HP, as, well, you can imagine armor would do, as you'd want armor to do, right? But what the stun effect does is basically if a unit's stunned, it doesn't matter if it has armor. The attacker is now just going to ignore their armor and go straight for their HP as if they didn't have armor, which is absolutely massive. And yeah, continuing right on, we have freeze, and I'll go ahead and throw it up right here. And freeze is kind of similar to stun. So we'll go ahead and read freeze real quick. Freeze, or being frozen, is a status effect introduced in the 2.5 patch by the Frostbite and Cryo Trooper. While being frozen, the affected units become more susceptible to the 4 basic damage types: crushing, explosive, fire, piercing. Technically, it changes the defense modifier for base defense and the armor defense for 4 types of to 150% damage. This means if a frozen unit is targeted by a crushing, explosive, fire piercing type or attack, the damage will be multiplied by 1.5. Since freezing units render the target's armor damage modifier useless, it's a good way of taking down heavily armored units. Additionally, frozen targets are under the same effects as stun, as we just previously discussed. Affected units cannot attack when frozen, and the cooldowns on their attacks are effectively frozen, as we just discussed, just like stun previously. So yeah, freeze is basically just stun, except even freaking better, as you can imagine, it increases damage, which, yeah, kind of makes sense for, being frozen. So yeah, absolutely adore that, super freaking cool. And yeah, that covers the main ones, but we do have a few more ones I do want to cover, mainly three, and one secret one. So without any further ado, I'll go ahead and continue placing these fields, and let's go ahead and start first things first with, in my opinion, one of the coolest ones, and honestly one of the most iconic, fire. And it is a little bit long, but we will get into it right now and just jump right into it. Damage over time. And of course, first one is fire, baby. And it reads, fire is a damage over time effect introduced in the 1.5 patch. Many fire type attacks have a chance to set the target on fire, doing damage that diminishes over time. The applied damage also counts as fire type damage and will thus be affected by the target's fire resistance. The damage over time will be displayed each turn along with the fire DOT icon. And of course, it's that letter fire emblem right there. So, as we continue to go on, it reads, the damage over time damage calculation is different for different directions. And it throws each individual chart right here. And I'll go ahead and throw it up on screen. And then it gives that example right there. And I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys. Not even going to try to attempt it. I'm throwing it up on screen for any Einsteins out there, and imagine a few of you gentlemen are smart enough. So by all means, if you're curious, there it is right there. But I don't even try to attempt to explain that over, a video. But if you're curious, I'm sure you guys could figure it out. It's not that hard. I just don't want to try to explain it with this video already getting pretty close to the 10-minute mark. Probably going to be closer to the 15-minute mark, if I'm being honest. But as we continue on, it reads, a special kind of fire damage over time is plasma damage over time. It is the same type as 2-turn fire damage over time, but has a 5% armor piercing. Fair enough. Now, moving on to the next one, the second of the three, we have the good old poison, which I'll be honest, as a kid, especially being introduced to this with sandworms, I thought this was acid. But no, this is poison. And again, going to go ahead and throw it right up on screen and read it. It reads, poison is a damage over time effect introduced in 1.5 patch. At first, it was available only to enemy sandworms. Oh, shocker. The 2.0 patch introduced new units that utilized this type of status effect. It also added new weapon attack options to existing units that applied this status effect. Poison damage over time function just like fire damage over time, but applies more damage. The first turn is just as strong as the initial attack. And here it is right here. And it is much, much more damage than fire, as you can see. And here is the example they give. And this is, of course, for acid. And again, I'll just go ahead and throw up fire's chart again. And here is poison's chart. And here is the fire example. And here's the poison example. Just for anybody super smart who wants to sit there and do the calculations, you're more than welcome. And we continue on reading with the poisons. For anybody just wanting to get the general information, the more concrete what's useful in battle and, winning and dominating against the nations. Poison is considered fire type damage in terms of damage reduction. Most critters will suffer against damage from poison damage over time due to their weakness to fire. On the contrary, units with resistance to fire type damage will further reduce damage from both fire damage over time and poison damage over time. The damage over time will be displayed each turn along with the poison damage over time icon. And it's that, of course, little skull right there. So, yeah. Pretty good. Just think fire, but even better. And honestly, that's saying something because I really like fire. I mean, of course, now I'm not talking about the arsonist. I'm, of course, talking more like the salamander, just freaking amazing fire troops like him, and more late game fire that just really gives fire a good image. But man, even freaking this, man, dude, poison with sandworms? Oh, just beautiful, dude. And I will always remember poison mainly from sandworms. Of course, more units would get it. We would get a lot of chem troopers and stuff like that. But for me, it's always just going to be sandworms. It's going to be iconic with sandworms, at least for me. But final regular one, and that, of course, is Breach. Can't forget about good old Breach. And already have it thrown up on screen. And it reads Breach is a status effect added in the 4.1 patch and released in 4.5 patch. It is caused by torpedo type attacks and some depth charge attacks. The only trainable units that it can inflict breach are the submarine, tactical submarine, SC2 Pelican, monster grouper, and the powerboat. Additionally, all tier rewards from the boss strike 16th boss strike and the promotional units during that boss strike, the atmospheric diving troop, have one ability that can cause breach. When breached, suffering extra damage over time, similar to fire damage over time and poison damage over time, 3 turn duration, first turn duration damage over time. Damage is 2 and 5th of the initial attack. Second is 4/15 of the initial. Third is 2/15 of the initial. And total will equate to about 1.5 the initial damage. So 150%. Close to 2 times what the initial attack was. Pretty freaking good. Because, yeah, Breach is very scary. And, yeah, of course, read all those guys. But one I really want to point out is this little powerboat right here. I hate him. I don't mind his machine guns, but his torpedo, if he gets a lucky crit, he can literally kill a mammoth class. I hate him for it. I hate him. And yeah, completely despise the concept of breach simply because of him. But yeah, all jokes aside, it actually is a really good stats effect. Makes total sense for something like, units on water, understandably, right? So yeah, all jokes aside, absolutely love breach. And finally, I do have to throw in one more technically Easter egg, and that, of course, is unreleased status effects. You heard that right. There was actually status effects added to the game, but it added to the game's code, we should say, but never actually added to the game itself. Z2 had some ideas cooking up that they never got to serve, and let's just go ahead and read them real quick. And of course, unfortunately, it is only one, but it's a really good one. You know what it is, guys? It's freaking acid. You heard that right. They actually did add acid. They just never really implemented it. So, of course, already have it thrown up on screen again. I can't believe this. I'm going to go ahead and read it. Acid. Acid is an unreleased environmental damage over time status effect, added in the 4.0 patch. Some units are immune to it. However, there are no units that currently apply/invoke this effect. It currently does 20 damage per turn with a 10% armor piercing. Which is just freaking insane to think about. They literally already had units too that were immune to acid and already had it added in, which I think acid should have already been poisoned, but especially with starting off with sandworms, but we'll let bygones be bygones there. And if you're curious what units are immune to it, I'll go ahead and throw them up all right here. As you can see, it's pretty much just Demo Man, Royal Spider Warrior, Plasma Trooper, Weapon Technician, and Nomad Elemental Rover. So 2 limited edition units, 2 high-end units, and 1 TF2 unit. Fair enough. One of them technically is in the game right now. You could get a Demo Man right now, and he is immune to acid damage over time. Assuming Madrona Games added that back to the code of the game. Maybe they didn't. It probably wasn't at top of their agenda. Fair enough. But yeah, that will do it for today's video, guys. Just had to cover this because the first video got amazing feedback. You guys said you wanted a part 2. So I had to make this video. And honestly, I freaking loved it. Of course, some things like Breach were already kind of well known. But stuff like the unreleased content was, I thought, pretty cool. I just thought had to be shared. And then even more stuff like, Suppression, I feel is, we all know that icon. We all see that little, green target. And we all know what that, generally means because we see it so many times. But having it explained at least once and that bravery helps, counter it, it kind of paints it more in picture, and it kind of, makes it more understandable, at least in my opinion. But yeah, guys, that will do it for us today. If you're still watching this, thank you very much for still watching. I greatly appreciate you. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider dropping a like down below and subscribing to the channel if you are new. If you have any questions, suggestions, any ideas about Battle Nations, want to talk about Battle Nations, have any requests for future videos, want me to cover more of this type of stuff, just more unit stuff, more in-game stuff, I would love to do that. Please let me know. And yeah, please check out the server if you haven't already. Everybody is welcome, even people who are already in another guild. If you just want to check it out, we would love to have you just to hang out and talk. And if you need a guild, by all means, we don't care what level you are, we want you. All means, we want you. So please join the server and ask to join the Empire. And yeah, with all that being said, that will do it for us, guys. Thank you very much for watching today's video. And as always, have a great rest of your day.